So I know that there's some people that are watching this that are very technology savvy and are using these kinds of things, and some that are maybe wondering, okay, so how do I get started? Well, what recommendations would you make around that?
Well, first of all, I mean, I don't think any CEO should be getting started in this. Their communications team should be developing your Facebook page, whether you're going to do a fan book. All of these companies are developing these things. As a CEO, I would be worried about cyber squatters. And these are the people that take over your name and they respond on your behalf. It happened with Burger King, for example. A kid was responding on all kinds of Burger King issues, and Burger King didn't know anything about it because they didn't own their name. So as a CEO starting out, number one, you want to own your personal name, no matter what.
How do you do that?
Mat Wilcox. I own that on Facebook. I own Mat Wilcox on Twitter. I own Mat Wilcox everywhere. So you make sure, especially for your board and your senior executives, that those names are being held. Also websites.com. A very big client of ours has had an issue for years with a guy that owns his name, and it is the most vicious and nasty website you can ever see, and we cannot get that taken away from him. So please make sure that you own your name. Second,
and presumably derivatives, things that might be similar to that.
Yeah, crazy names like whatever. Pick a credit union name.
Let's take a small one. Van City.
Van City. I would own Van City sucks. I would own Van City. Is angry, or I would pick some really just sort of critical names.
It's too late, I have those ones already. Sorry, Tamara.
And I would do .com and .cas for those, and make sure your personal name, like Tamara's name, should be locked and loaded forever. And make sure every year that your comms department is paying for those again and keeping those up. It's very baseline stuff.
So, and presumably some other ones, because I know there's some new ones coming out, like out in the East Coast, Jamie Bailey is here, and like the .orgs and the .nus and some of those others, because they're becoming not as popular as the .coms and things like that. But
I'm more worried about .coms and .cas here, to be honest. You can go crazy, and we have for some of our clients who do business all over the world, and literally last week for one client we booked 71 names. And the other thing as a CEO, you're going to start to get all of this sort of spam email, people saying, hey, we own your name in Asia, or we own your name here. That's scam. So there's a very easy way to figure out what you own and what you don't own, and then lock down those names. Really, really important.
Okay, that'd be the first thing.
Very first thing.
Okay. What about other, like there's things like, now you can comment on newspaper articles that are online.
Absolutely.
Which, and we saw that recently in Alberta with Garth experience with service, a lot of employees that were commenting on things that have gone on. But you've got things like names, you've got Twitter, you've got, there's some other ones that are, LinkedIn, Facebook, things like that.
MySpace, YouTube.
Yeah, so what tools should you use?
Well, I think it depends on how open and transparent that you want to be, and also how much time you have, because these things take a lot of time and energy. So I would start very slowly and very carefully. And how do you do that? Number one, monitor what's already being said about you. You can do a search on any of these tools through Google or whoever, and monitor what people are saying about you. And if it's really negative, I would address this immediately, because you've got a problem. If it's a one-off comment, or I got poor customer service, or I wasn't happy, then you can individualize those. But if you have a trend of negative comments, then you have to deal this up. It's not going to get any better. As a matter of fact, it's going to get exponentially worse. So
just one other question, then maybe we'll go to another way of presentation. This is going to be on YouTube. We'll try some others. Now, the credit unions are trying to attract a younger audience, a youthful audience, and this is the days when loyalty really there isn't such thing anymore. But there's also on average, their members are between 7 and 10 years older than the banks.
Right.
So how do you balance what you do? Is there a difference? I mean, are older people on these social media sites as well, and how do you balance that difference between members that have been there for a long time and the ones that you're trying to attract?
Well, we have to be, realistically, with something like a Twitter, a year ago, there was hardly anybody on Twitter, and as of April, there was 10 million and growing exponentially. It is absolutely a wildfire. So I think that you're seeing right now all of the media are turning into it, whereas 4 or 5 months ago they weren't. I, for example, follow all the media on Twitter, and every day I'm adding 30, 40 new reporters a day. So people like Jack Welch are on it, Susie Welch, and you're seeing celebrities. And so, you know, it can be very overwhelming, and that's why I say start slowly. Know what you're interested in following, and maybe you're only interested in following each other right now, just to sort of develop it and see how it works for you, and then slowly grow it. I wouldn't go into everything at once. You have to be careful and you have to manage it, but you do need a presence so that you can communicate. If you have a crisis or if you have an issue, you want to be able to use as many forums as possible to communicate that. Look at Maple Leaf Foods. Last August, so a year ago, there was 113 tweets about the Maple Leaf Food Listeria crisis. When you look today at any sort of situation like the Mumbai kidnappings or the US Airways thing, hundreds of thousands of tweets in an hour. So it's really exponentially growing, but it doesn't mean that you have to be scared by it. You don't have to be scared by it. You can't harm your brand by trying to protect it and trying to tell the truth.
So when I said that was the final question, I actually meant it was the second final question, because I don't count really well. If there was the last piece of this, if there was one thing they said, you know, do not do this. Like, these are the things where you can get yourself into trouble. You know, X those through. Are there any of those that come to mind?
Anything that you say in social media cannot be erased. It cannot be. So whatever you say, think twice before you hit send or enter. And we've seen a lot of people that have gotten into trouble for it. You can't erase it. So really be careful and think about what you're saying. But also, you have to be human and have a personality. Otherwise, they're going to say, you're so boring, I'm not going to be following you. So you have to make sure that enough of your fun, and you have to have fun with it for people to want to follow you. And so you have to make sure that you're giving a little bit of personal information, not excessive, certainly not names of children or where you live or anything like that, but more, you know, I'm going off for my run today, or wow, I'm flabbergasted by what's happening worldwide in banking or credit unions or however you want. Like, if you have an opinion, people want to hear it. One of the other downsides, though, is you can't just start and stop. You sort of have to maybe pick, I'm going to do maybe one interesting thing a day, or this interested me today, and talk about it. Because if you start and stop, when you do have an issue or you really do want to be able to communicate with people quickly, they're not going to believe you. So it's a real trust factor with followers.
And after all, in terms of time, it is only 140 characters max.
It is.
So it should be.
But things like Facebook or LinkedIn or all of these other things, you know, certainly on YouTube, a lot of CEOs are using YouTube to communicate. You can, like our video today, but you can communicate with your employees and you can communicate with your customers, and it's a fantastic tool. But it takes a while to get used to videoing yourself and putting it out there. And some of the very best in the world are doing it now, really. If you look at the guys, speaking of BlackBerries, if you look at the guys, you know, for example, from Google and other places like that, they use YouTube very, very effectively. And you can too.
So we'll take this little dinging in the background as just a pause for this conversation. Yeah, a sign, and we'll move into a different format for presentation. So thank you, Matt, and thank you.
Thanks.